You're listening to the Piano Parent Podcast with Shelley Davis, episode 369. Hey there, and welcome to the Piano Parent Podcast. I'm Shelley Davis, a longtime piano teacher and parent with my husband of 4 mostly musical kids. As parents, we spend so much time trying to encourage and motivate our kids. We wonder if we're doing the best things for them. We second guess our decisions, and we worry if we're going to scar them for life. While you focus on encouraging your kids, I'm here to reassure and inspire you. I'll be here every week with practice tips, inspirational teacher interviews, and musical topics to help you impress your kids with your musical knowledge. Parenting is not for the faint of heart, but it's much easier with support, and you have come to the right place. Good morning, piano parents. Hello and welcome to the Piano Parent Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, but I think it's one that every parent, especially parents of older kids, really need to hear, and hopefully I can offer you maybe some perspective and encouragement. Whether your child is just starting piano lessons or preparing for college auditions, there's something deeper at play in our homes that often gets overlooked, and that is the power of meaningful conversation. Last summer, Dwayne and I got to go on a road trip. We tend to take road trips together every July to celebrate our anniversary. And in 2024, we weren't able to go on a road trip because he was recovering from cancer treatments and surgery, and it was just a long, hard summer. So we were very excited to get back out on the road together this past summer in 2025. We visited Utah and the 5 national parks there and just really had a good time. We enjoy seeing nature and doing what little hiking we can, which is not a lot, but we enjoy being outside and having experiences on vacation rather than going to amusement parks or whatever things that other people might be interested in. That's just our deal. And our typical rhythm when we're on a road trip is that we will drive maybe 4 or 5 hours in the morning, aim to arrive at a destination around lunchtime, and scout out what we want to do. Well, usually Dwayne's already planned some of the highlights of what he wants to do, but then we also research and see what other sorts of kitschy, fun, unusual kinds of things might be in the town that we're visiting. And so many times over lunch while we're at a restaurant or at dinner, he and I are both on our phone, maybe catching up on Facebook. I like to take pictures on our road trips and share them and post them in a Facebook post. And of course, we might also be scouting out. He might be making hotel reservations or who knows. And so a lot of the times when we're in a restaurant, that's what we're doing. And if you didn't know our rhythm, if you were just the onlooker looking at us, you would see a married couple, both in their phone, maybe eating a little bit, maybe a couple of comments to each other, but for the most part, we both are on the phone. And when we were in Utah, Kanab, Utah, we were eating at whatever the big restaurant is on the corner there across from what's the name of that lodge? The Perry Lodge. If you get a chance to go to Kanab, Utah, stay at the Perry Lodge and then eat at the restaurant across the street. Anyway, we were eating dinner there, and there was a man eating at the booth next to us by himself. And he was eating his meal. We were eating our meal, kind of minding our own business. But as he was wrapping up, we just sort of made eye contact and had a few, cordial, hello, how are you, nice weather. And he asked us, he said, I don't mean to be rude, but I find it curious that you two have spent your entire meal on your phones. You haven't talked to each other. He said, I've just come from visiting the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, and my wife and I had planned to take a trip there for years, and I just never did. And my wife died a year ago, 3 years ago, and so now he found himself taking that trip on his own. And from his perspective, seeing a couple who was sitting across the table from each other, not having a conversation when he was missing his wife and taking a trip that he had planned to take with her, now he was taking it solo. It was just, it was a reality check. And we both put our phones down. And so now we affectionately refer to that man as North Rim. And when either one of us is at dinner or doing something where we should be conversing and paying attention and be attentive with each other, we'll say something like, what would North Rim say? He might not be happy with us just having our noses in our phone. That was a whole long way to get around to another thing that I saw just recently. I came across a post from a fellow teacher, not necessarily a music teacher. My impression is that she teaches in maybe a public school system. She teaches middle and high school students. And she shared an experience that she had with her students that was equally eye-opening and, you could say, heartbreaking. She noticed that her students in class were particularly talkative. Not just distracted talking, but they were actually craving connection with each other. And so she stopped the class and asked them, why? What's up with all this chatter? What is up with all this talking? And the students were honest with her and they said, nobody talks to us at home. We don't have family dinners together. We don't really have conversations together. Everybody's just on their phone. Maybe we're watching TV. Maybe I go into my bedroom and be alone or play video games, but there's no real conversation. Nobody talks to each other at my house. So this teacher gave her students a challenge. She wanted them to go home and start a meaningful conversation with an adult. She said, use open-ended questions and truly participate in meaningful conversation. And then when she got feedback from her students the next day, it was pretty surprising. Out of 20 students, only 2 actually engaged in meaningful conversations with family members or friends at home. Some of the responses that she got from the other students who tried but didn't succeed, one student said, my mom told me to shut up, that she was tired. My dad told me to tell you to do your job. It's your job to talk to me, not his. My grandmother said she'd love to have a conversation with me after her TV show was over. Unfortunately, the TV show was never over. There was another episode. Some students went home to an empty house. There was no one home with them all night long. Every student in that group, every single one of those kids wished they had someone at home that would ask about their day. They wanted to be seen and heard and valued. And these are teenagers. And they're the ones that will grunt and roll their eyes and act like you're yesterday's news and answer with maybe one word. But they still need us. Their parents, the most important people in their world, whether they will admit it or not, they still need to communicate with us. They still need to connect with us. As piano parents, it's easy to fall into manager mode, making sure they practice and get to their lessons and stay on schedule, not just with piano, but with their homework or with their other school activities. But if we aren't also carving out some space for real conversation, we're missing the heart of parenting. And let's be honest, we know we monitor our kids' screen time, or we try to, but how well are we monitoring our own? If your child sees you constantly scrolling, watching, checking out, then they may stop trying to reach out altogether. Our attention is often their measure of worth. If my own mom won't pay attention to me, what value do I have? Heartbreaking. So just like that conversation we had with North Rim, it's caused us to sometimes stop and check and realize, okay, we need to put down the phone. Sometimes we make a decision to, no, we're together, but we don't have to be engrossed in, gazing into each other's eyes and having deep, profound conversations all the time. We don't necessarily have to do that, but it has caused us to check ourselves from time to time and think, what would North Rim say? So, along those lines, I would like to encourage you, piano parent. I appreciate you listening to the podcast today. Maybe you're watching the YouTube video. I'm going to try to keep this on the short side, so maybe you can encourage your piano kid to practice. Maybe you're even sitting in the same room while they practice and you're listening on some earbuds. And so you're doing your separate activities in a common space. I think that's body doubling. We talked about that a couple of episodes ago. But then once this short episode is over and your child's practice session is over, then I have a few conversation starters that might help us make a better connection with our children, our younger children and our older children. I enjoy watching videos, short clips on YouTube of people like Charlie Kirk and others who would go on college campuses and engage in conversation with people. I think these days we think if someone disagrees with me, I'm not supposed to talk to them at all. And as adults, hopefully we recognize there is value in speaking with someone that we have differing opinions on and different points of view, and maybe even we agree to disagree, but we can still conversate and still communicate with each other. I remember one view where a father and son were talking, and so the interviewer asked the father and son their differing opinions, their differing views on whatever the subject was. And so the college-age son said, "This is what I believe," and the father said, "Well, this is what I believe," and it was two different things. And the interviewer asked the dad, how did he come to these ideas? And the dad was like, "I don't know, we don't ever talk about these things." Well, maybe you should. If you want your child to know your values and know your perspective on life, who better for them to learn it from than you? If you're not thrilled with some of the conversations that they have, don't argue with them. Don't be confrontational in that way, but be curious. Who is that? Ted Lasso said, don't be judgmental, but be curious. And well, what makes you think that? And how did you come to that conclusion? Where did you read that? And what do you think would be the next step if we did whatever the thing is that you're proposing? Then what? And how do we follow through? And sometimes, in my opinion, a lot of these grand ideas don't have much traction once you get past that initial thought. Well, if you want to do this thing, what if everybody did that thing? And then some people take it to another level that you never intended. That's why we have a lot of checks and balances and so on. I may cut all of this out because I don't intend to be political. I haven't said anything specifically political. I think you know where I stand on my biblical worldview. My point is that if we don't communicate with our children, somebody will. And we have no control over the message they give to our children. So if we want to model the kind of connection that we hope our children crave, rather than blowing our children off when they come home with an unusual assignment from their teacher to start a conversation, maybe the conversation should start from us. And don't be surprised if you get more rolled eyes from your teenager who thinks that this is the dumbest thing to talk to their parents. Keep trying. And eventually, I believe you will chisel away at that rough exterior and you'll get to the soft spot of their heart. And you teach them that they can trust you as a parent and that you want to communicate with them as a person. I did an episode years ago, and I'll link it up in the show notes. It's episode 194, which was part of that episode. I talked about 4 stages of parenting. And just briefly, just kind of a recap, the beginning of our parenting career, we are the caregivers. We're feeding, burping, changing diapers, picking up food thrown from the high chair, all of those things. But as our children grow out of their toddler years, then we become more of a cop, and we're policing their behavior. Don't sit so close to the TV. Take your finger out of your brother's nose, and you can't have a snack right now. It'll spoil your dinner. Or go practice your piano assignment. Then the next phase, when our kids are in middle school and those high school years, we become coaches. We're not policing every move like we were before. We're giving them opportunities to make their own decisions, but then they also have to deal with the consequences. It's awful late. Are you going to be able to get up for school tomorrow? Are you making progress on your recital piece that Miss Davis is expecting from you? What do you think about the choices your friends are making? And then finally, once our children reach adulthood, maybe they move off to college, then we become more like consultants to our children. As each of our children moved out and went off to college and started living on their own, I gave them permission to stop obeying me. I told them wise people seek out counsel, that their father and I still consult with our own parents about different things. We'd be foolish not to tap into their wisdom and life experience. And although my kids can consult with me, they don't have to take my advice. But they're also responsible for the consequences if they don't. So I'll link up, that's just a little recap of episode 194. The title of that was Your Awesome Butt. I don't remember how I got from there to 4 stages of parenting, but you'll have to go listen to it to find out. So once your children reach the middle school and high school age, we're not being a cop anymore. We don't have our thumb over everything they do, every decision that they make. And so our conversation should change a little bit too. And I've got a few conversation starters just to maybe give you some ideas. And I'll put these in a PDF, almost like a cheat sheet or a checkbox format, so that you can print it out and have these ideas when you're looking for some way of starting a conversation with your child. You can access this at pianoparentpodcast.com/369. So here are some open-ended, age-appropriate conversation ideas that goes beyond, how was your day, dear? And really invite a more personal connection. Thinking about your elementary school aged child, kindergarten through 5th grade, you could ask them something like, what was your favorite thing that happened today? Actually, what was your favorite thing is something that my family asks each other in lots of different scenarios. If Christmas holidays, what was your favorite thing about Christmas this year? My husband and I asked each other on our trip to Utah last summer, what was your favorite national park? Or what was the favorite hotel we stayed at? Or your favorite restaurant? I love the what is your favorite thing question. This one is more piano related. If your piano could talk, what would it say about your practice? And maybe you ask your elementary kid that question and they're, I don't know. And you could encourage them. You could prompt them with an answer. Well, I was listening too, and I think your piano would say how much fun it was for you to play that really strong, loud part. I think your piano enjoyed the chance to play that loudly. There's another tip, another little conversation starter game that I learned from Matthew Dix. He is an author and a motivational speaker. I don't remember exactly where I heard this. He's written a book called Someday is Today that I very much recommend. So this might have been in there, or maybe I heard it somewhere else. But the game is, tell me your first, last, best, worst. First, last, best, worst. And he said that he'll have students come in to give him just a topic, and they'll think he'll never be able to come up with something like this. And they might say toaster, and he'll be able to think of the first toaster experience he can recall, the best toaster experience, the worst toaster experience. Ooh, I've got a worst toaster experience for you. Our oldest son, Justin, when he was in elementary school, decided to make a grilled cheese sandwich. And apparently I had not communicated with him on the proper technique for making a grilled cheese sandwich. He just thought you could put 2 pieces of bread with a piece of cheese in between them in the toaster, and that's how you made a grilled cheese sandwich. We found out that's a good way to burn cheese and to stink up the house, and then he got taught the proper way to make a grilled cheese sandwich. So those can be some fun conversations. Tell me your first, last, best, and worst something. Moving up to your middle schoolers, maybe they're in the 6th to 8th grade, you could ask them, what's something that made you laugh today? If you could be invisible for one day, what would you do? What's something you wish adults understood better about your life? And I'm not usually a big fan of those, like, if you could be invisible. What was it? Barbara Walters years ago asked, if you could be a tree, what kind of tree would you be? What is your spirit animal? Or some of those really thought-provoking, profound type of questions. I'm not sure how I feel about those. But if it sparks something else to have a conversation about, then okay, I'm all about that. What's something you wish adults understood better about your life? Maybe what's something you wish I understood? Or somehow frame the question so it doesn't feel like an interrogation. It feels like the starting of a conversation. That's the whole idea. It's a conversation starter, not an interrogation. As we move up to the high school years, maybe you could ask, is there something that stressed you out today? Or what's one thing that stressed you out today? And how did you handle it? You might even ask your child, what did you notice some of your friends doing? How did they handle this situation? If your week had a theme song, or if your day had a theme song, what would it be? My husband and our boys like to watch professional wrestling, and they always kind of joke with each other about the entrance music of different wrestlers. And so if you had entrance music, what would it be? That might be a fun thing. I have talked on the podcast before that I think it's very enlightening if you're going on a road trip to invite your kid, whatever age they are, to be the DJ in the car. And that's so much easier these days than it was when I recorded that episode way back, because you just connect to the Bluetooth in your car and then pull up whatever streaming service you want, and then they can pull up any song. And then if it's an old song, fortunately my kids seem to enjoy classic rock, and they enjoy an eclectic sampling of music. And I can tell them, oh, I remember this was a popular song whenever I was in high school, or your dad and I went on a date and I remember hearing this song played wherever we were. So those kinds of things can bring up, can build and start conversations going in different directions just by asking about a song. I think that first, last, best, worst game could be played at any stage of your child's development. If you've got high school, of your child's development. And then, of course, as your children move on into the college years, the young adult years, that's even more value in having connection with them, giving them the opportunity to ask you questions and have conversations. You could ask them, what's been the biggest surprise about adulthood so far? What's something from childhood that you miss? Or what's something from childhood that you remember? Was there a meal that I made that you looked forward to? Was there a meal that I made that you didn't look forward to? If my mom asked that question, I would have to say meatloaf. Ugh, I have never made a meatloaf. I don't order meatloaf at the restaurants, and I didn't enjoy it when my mom made it for supper. Is there a song or memory that's helped you through a hard time lately? And these, of course, aren't magic bullets. They're just invitations, just some ideas to spark some sort of conversation, something beyond yes or no. I will encourage you to be consistent. At first, when you try this with your child, they may not be as responsive as you hope. You may not land in a Hallmark movie where everybody talks about their feelings and has good communication. And also be sure that you're listening more than you're speaking. Let them talk and don't feel like you have to give an answer for everything that they say. My husband has gotten to where he'll ask me, do you want me to fix it or do you want me to just listen? Which, of course, fires me up. I don't want you to ask that question, actually, but I do appreciate that he recognizes his go-to is to give me a solution, and sometimes his matter-of-fact solution is not at all what I'm looking for. I just want you to just listen to me. Let me get it off my chest. Let me sort through my feelings out loud, and then they won't be so big anymore. I find that to be true. When you ponder something in your mind, it seems like it grows and gets bigger and bigger. And who knows what your piano kid is thinking? What are they mulling over in their mind that seems to get bigger the more they think about it? But if you can invite them into conversation, maybe the conversation starts off about a toaster, but then it moves on to something funny that happened at school today, and then it grows into what's really on their mind, and they can vocalize it, and you can hear them and acknowledge that, yeah, that sounds like a tough situation, and whether or not you offer any advice, whether or not they want advice, hopefully just speaking it out loud makes it not seem to be quite so big. Seems more manageable. I'll share some links to some previous episodes where I talked about some of these other things a little more in depth. I already mentioned episode 194, where I talked about the 4 stages of parenting. And then there's also episode 147, where I chatted with a couple of other teachers, Judy Wilkins and Dawn Ivers, and we talked about screen time and some precautions that parents need to make for their children with screen time. But I hope as you listen, you'll also consider monitoring your own screen time. And then the last episode that I released, episode 368, I talked about some open-ended questions that I ask my students at almost every lesson. So if you didn't catch that, go back and listen to it, and it may give you some ideas for conversation starters with your own kids and some open-ended questions that you could be asking them. Your children are going to need you always. Whether they are still in the home needing you to be chauffeur and taxi driver and their coach and kind of watching them and helping them make decisions, whether they grow up into the college years and they're just calling when they need to have laundry done, or when they grow up and have families of their own, they're still going to need you. They may not say it, and especially in the teenage years, they may not show it, but your presence, your attention is still an anchor that they hold on to. They can have that as their security and their home base while they stretch out just a little bit further into their own independent world. I appreciate you for being a piano parent and making piano part of your child's upbringing. Thank you for doing the hard work, the quiet work, the work that often goes unnoticed but is never unfelt. So until next time, keep music playing and keep the conversations going. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for hanging around all the way to the end. If you haven't done so already, this would be a great time for you to hit the subscribe button. If you're listening through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast player is, hit subscribe so you will be the first to receive next week's episode. I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast, and you could just email me, Shelley@pianoparentpodcast.com. I have cultivated an open conversation with her. I have told her, well, all of my children, but Hello. How are you? Okay, I was going to say something about talking to Tracy, but she just got home. So, monitor our screen time. Do we monitor our own? Okay, where was I before I was... You know what the funny thing is? This episode is about talking to your children. And yet. Okay, come here and talk to me.
What?
It really is about talking to children and putting screens away.
You said come here and talk to me.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know if I'd put this on a blooper reel at the end.
You should.
What should we say to parents who want to do the things, but their kids come in and want to talk to them?
I don't know. What do you want more?
More of what?
What do you want more? Do you want time with your kids, or do you want to do
Well, see, the right answer
the
is
responsible
time.
stuff?
I want time with my kids because you're not going to
Because
be
no
in the
one
house
wants
forever.
to do the responsible stuff, Mom. It's just stuff we have to do. That's why I do everything at the last minute.
Love the last minute. It's one of my favorite minutes. Okay, Scram, I got work to do.
Wow. Better put that in your bloopers.
Love you.
Bye.